Oh, excuse me. Welcome back to Around the World with Dane Waters. Um, we're waiting on our first guest to come to the studio, but let's talk real quick about Trump's trip to Asia. What's interesting is he started in Asia, where he signed the peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand. Now, most people around the world don't even realize that um, that there was a war between Cambodia and Thailand. Actually, it led to the resignation, or actually the taking out of office of the Thai Prime Minister. Oh, wait, wait, look at there. What do we see? I just saw Ben Murray Bruce. There he is.
I've been in the
It's like a
studio.
vision. It's like one of those visions that she shows up.
Dane, I've been in the studio waiting for you. I was sitting here for 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
Listen, you're Nigerian. You're Nigerian, Ben. I expect you to be 30 minutes late. Come on,
No,
live up to the
hey,
hype.
I'm never late. Dane, I'm never late.
You're never
I'm
late.
here.
I know. Well, welcome to be on the show. For those
Thank
of you who
you.
don't know, those who are listening around the world, we are honored to have with us Senator Ben Murray Bruce, who's the chairman of Silverbird and one of the smartest guys that I know around the world. It's really
Thank
true. And
you.
actually, he's pretty damn good looking too. So I have to say that as well. Okay, Ben, I have to talk on a very serious subject. I was watching the promo before the show started, and it was the Silverbird brand history or whatever. And they had Jake and the Fat Man on there. Do you remember Jake and the Fat Man?
Yeah, that was a show I used to promote many years ago. We used to syndicate it across the country. Then there was only one channel, only NTA, and we had it syndicated through NTA. They hadn't privatized, commercialized television in Nigeria at the time. I think that was in the 80s. It was only one station, and we would buy the show, the Cosby Show, Jake and the Fat Man, A Different World, and we put it on the air. It was very exciting times. I liked it. I don't know where, is he still alive?
No, he's passed away. But my point is, do you think in today's society environment we could actually have a show called Jake and the Fat Man? I don't think in America it would ever make the airways.
Do that anymore. That was that time. You couldn't say Fat Man. I mean, I don't think you can do that anymore. But that was fun in those days.
Yeah, no, all the good days are gone. Okay, let's get started. I want to start with today's show. The first part of the show is we're going to talk about global issues, and then the second part we're going to talk about Nigeria. So I'm going to start with a topic that you care a lot about. That's the environment, Mother Nature. And we see this Category 5 Hurricane Melissa heading toward Jamaica, and it's going to be devastating. There's no doubt about it. But I wanted to get your take, because we haven't talked about this in a while. Do you believe in global warming, and what do you think that we should do about it?
I really believe in global warming, and I think we should do everything we can to stop it. That's why I support electric cars. And I think the way the world is going, the sea level will rise, and a lot of countries, the cities, and the coastline will be overwhelmed. The ice will melt in the North Pole, and it's going to be a catastrophe. The world as we know it today will not exist, and I think we should do whatever it takes to stop that process. And you have been a champion for this, and I think in this case I'll let you lead. But we need to stop it. Global warming is real, and a lot of people have no respect for the environment, for Mother Nature, and that has to stop. And I think whatever it is we ought to do, presidents, government, leaders across the world should pay attention to this very important issue. So it's not going to be wars that'll end the world. It'll be rising the sea level and typhoons and storms and things like that, and it'll eliminate a whole bunch of us.
No, I agree, and I bring it up because it's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, the world is faced with, a once in a generation, or actually in our lifetime, multiple generations, conflict, man-made, and we all focus on that. But it seems like the conversation about global warming has just disappeared. But you look at, but a country like Nigeria, I know this probably should be in the second half of the show, but a country like Nigeria, which is one of the most populous countries in the world, which is an oil producer, do you think that's an area where Nigeria could actually lead in trying to address this issue?
Well, yes, we should. I mean, through poverty, a lot of people chop down trees, make firewood to cook. So there's got to be rapid development across the country, and we need to educate our people to stop chopping down trees. But then again, you look at it from a realistic point of view, they need fire to cook their food, and the only way they can get it, they don't have gas, they don't have electricity, so they do that. So for that reason, it's a problem. It's a man-made problem which we need to figure out a way through rapid development so everybody has access to power and they have access to gas, so that can stop. Because if we don't stop that, if you look at northern Nigeria today, the Sahara Desert, all the way from the Sahara, is moving down towards northern Nigeria and then towards southern Nigeria. And when that happens, people are going to start migrating towards the south. The north will be a desert, nobody can live there, and that will be a major catastrophe. And I think one thing we should do is start planting trees in northern Nigeria. We should plant maybe 5 million trees a year to stop deforestation. That should be a project from the northern governors in the area, because for too long, we always say it's the federal government. But if you live in Sokoto State, if you live in Zamfara, the governor there should make it a point of duty to plant 1 million trees a year, each governor, to stop this process and to educate the people about using firewood and things like that. So yes, it is the responsibility of the state governors, and we need to do it now, not later.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because you took us exactly where I wanted us to be, is that, everything that happens on this planet impacts our quality of living, our quality of life. And people think that I don't care about global warming, but the reality, it leads to immigration, it leads to wars, it leads to, fighting over natural resources. I mean, so all of these things, one thing I want the audience to think about is all of these things that we talk about impact each other. You can't just think, I don't care about global warming, I don't care about this, I don't care about that. Every single thing that happens on this planet impacts each and every one of us each and every day. So, okay, I'm going to ask you this question. Pick a continent and let's talk about. Pick any continent, because I have so many questions. I have a whole list. Look here, a whole list of things. So pick a continent, we'll talk about it.
Pick a number?
Yeah, pick a continent, like Africa, Asia, North America, South America, because I have questions for you.
Africa.
Of course you pick Africa. Okay. Africa's in the second half.
Europe, Ukraine. South America. We talk about Ukraine then. Ukraine.
Oh my God. Okay, let's talk about Ukraine.
You lived. Hey, Dan, you lived in Ukraine.
I lived in Ukraine for a very long time, and it's sad to see. I was talking to some friends last night, where ever since Trump has been involved in peace in Ukraine, it's interesting. Putin's attacks have become more and more violent. So, okay, let's just go here. So Trump talks about how he is the president who's brought more peace to the world than anywhere else. In the monologue, I talked about how we just signed the peace deal between, Cambodia and Thailand, which is kind of a joke in many ways. What do you think is going on there? Do you think Trump is doing enough to bring an end to the war?
I don't know what's in his mind. There are two issues here. If Trump just wants to end the war regardless of the consequence, he probably has the power to do so, because he's a superpower. He can make a deal with Putin, and the war comes to an end. You can just starve Ukraine of weapons, and Ukraine has no choice. They cede the Donbass region to Russia, and the war comes to an end, and a third of Ukraine now belongs to Russia. Now, from Trump's point of view, I understand the guys in the Donbass region all speak Russian. And historically, these Russian-speaking people want to be affiliated with Russia, not Ukraine. I don't know, that's what I read. Maybe you can explain that to me. So here is the issue for me. If a referendum was held in Ukraine today, Ukraine as we know it, will 90% of the people in Ukraine want to live in a country called Ukraine, or will a percentage of them, a majority of them in those specific regions, want to live in a country called Russia? In a democracy, let me ask you that question. Who would win? Which side would win? Let's say there was no war. Secondly, Now that there is a war, it's been going on for 3 years. If it goes on for another 2 years, who would win this war militarily? Maybe you can help me answer those two questions, and then I might have an opinion on what will happen in Ukraine.
Okay, well, let's break that down and talk about each one of those. So, in the Donbass and in Crimea, it is very true that most of the people in those areas speak Russian. However, if there was a referendum, and there was an illegal referendum there early in the war, but if a referendum were held today, do you want to be part of Russia? Do you want to be part of Ukraine? There's no doubt it would pass, say they want to be part of Russia. The reality is because all the Ukrainian speakers have left because of the war, so it's predominantly now Russian speakers. And actually, Russia has had what they call death squads, when they've been going into those areas and they've been literally killing people who still speak Ukrainian or who still support Ukraine. But let me ask this question, and then I'll come to your 3 versus 5 years. Let's take a country like Nigeria, where there's multiple dialects, right? There's multiple dialects throughout the country. And just because somebody may be more, let's say they like Niger better, they feel like their ancestors are from Niger, and does that mean that just because they have ancestral roots with a country that's neighboring a country, does that mean that that country has the right to invade and take it? I mean, what about the whole principle of territorial integrity? I mean, if we give up the Donbass, we, the world, give up the Donbass and give up Crimea, what message does that send to other countries around the world that, hey, we'll just take whatever we want?
Let's say the people in Niger had ancestral roots in northern Nigeria. Nigeria would fight to protect their territorial integrity. We would fight. And I understand why Ukraine is fighting to protect their territorial integrity. But here's the issue. When you have a war that's not winnable, how long can you fight? How long will people die? And how long will this stalemate continue before somebody gives in, regardless of what's right or wrong? And I understand what you're saying. You're talking about what's right, what's wrong, what's legal, what's illegal, and what's terrible. And I agree with everything you said. But the question is, how many people need to die for us to prove our point? And Ukraine and Russia, that war is becoming a distant memory for many people across the world. You can only talk about the war for so long. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. After a while, Dane, you know it, people get tired. They want peace. They want peace. They want to move on. And I agree with what you said. You told me you predicted this war. You predicted the invasion. You explained accurately, exactly. You're a genius when it comes to foreign policy. You told me exactly what will happen. What I never thought about was how long this war would last. And it's horrible. It's terrible. You told me the other day that they pick up young kids on the street, they conscript them, and they send them to the war front. How long will mothers have to cry? I mean, at some point they're going to say, okay, do I give up this territory so my son or my daughter stays alive? Or do I keep fighting and everybody dies? And I think it's a hard question, but I don't know. It's hard. At some point, you keep fighting or you quit.
No, listen, you're right. It is difficult. I mean, and Trump is pushing for peace, and we all, you, me, everyone, we believe in peace. But at what cost is this peace? And, I've had other guests on the show where we've talked about this, that let's play this out. Let's say that, okay, tomorrow we decide the world once again, or Zelensky in Ukraine decides we're going to give everything that Putin wants. We're going to give all the land away. Okay, so we negate our territorial integrity. We become we lose 40% of our land mass and arable lands, and so hey, take it. The problem with that is what happens next. I mean, if we live in a world where we expect Putin or the bad guys to say, okay, hey, I took 40%, I'm not going to do anything else. Okay, fine. If we had an absolute guarantee that Putin would stop, then I could probably be persuaded to do that, just my own personal opinion. However, history has taught us that bad people don't stop. when you reward an authoritarian figure and a dictator, they want more and they want more and they want more. So what happens? You know, this is where I think that the war has to continue to contain Putin, because as soon as the war stops, every other country in Europe has to be worried. Estonia, all the Balkans, all the Balkans, and that is my concern. And does that concern you? Let's say if Putin says, "Hey, I can't guarantee I'm not going to take more," is that worth ending the war, or do you think the war should continue?
First of all, I think the analogy is the Second World War. Hitler invaded Poland, and then he began a march to Western Europe. He conquered all of Western Europe except Great Britain. He attacked Soviet Union, and that was his downfall. In those days, there were no nuclear bombs. Because there were no nuclear bombs, you could keep fighting. The problem we have right now is Russia has the bomb, Ukraine does not have the bomb, NATO allies have the bomb. That guarantees mutual annihilation. I think if Russia's bomb versus America supporting, or Western Europe supporting Ukraine with the bomb, that guarantees there would be peace. The two nations must have nuclear arsenal to guarantee nobody launches the first strike. That is the only way there can be peace in Western Europe. The bomb is the key. So, to answer your question, if the Western countries gave Ukraine the bomb or guaranteed to use the bomb in case Russia invades, then I don't think Putin will be crazy enough to destroy his country to acquire more territory in Ukraine. So that is my view. Hitler didn't have the bomb. Western Europe didn't have the bomb. America didn't have the bomb. They had the bomb after the second, I think it was 1946 or 47 or 48. That was when America, no, they had the bomb in 46. I think America had the bomb in 46. So, and that ended the war with Japan. So the bomb is the key to the solution. If America gives Ukraine the bomb, then we will have peace.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, the analogy to World War II is exactly right. I mean, when the British Prime Minister Chamberlain went to Nazi Germany and to Hitler and said, "Hey, we will let you have the land you've taken if you promise not to do any more, and we won't go to war with you." And Hitler said yes, of course. Then then 6 months later, he decided to invade the rest of Europe. And as far as the bomb, I mean, the reason that the Manhattan Project in the United States, we rushed so fast to get the bomb, is because we had to have the bomb before Hitler had the bomb. Because imagine if Hitler had the bomb. So here's my prediction, and we have to go into another topic, is that I do believe that Putin will use a tactical nuclear weapon on Ukraine. He will claim that he didn't do it, and then we'll have to see how the world responds. So I sadly have to move on to another topic here. Let's talk about Asia, okay? Because we talk about let's talk about Trump, because we have 3 minutes here before we go to the next section. So do you think, as the world knows, that Taiwan is subjected to Chinese threats every single day? China wants to take Taiwan because they believe Taiwan is part of it. It's a democracy. It's very strategic economically to the world. But Donald Trump has slowed military aid to Taiwan while he negotiates with China. Do you think it would be in the world's best interest if Donald Trump, in order to get an economic deal with China, said, "Hey, we promise that we're not going to do anything else for Taiwan if you give us this economic deal"? Do you think that's a fair trade?
I've been to Taiwan, I've been to China, two beautiful countries. I wish they could remain free and independent, but I believe China will invade Taiwan at some point, and I truly believe America or any country in the West will not come to Taiwan's aid, and Taiwan will become part of China. That's what I truly believe. I think America is not going to lose 100,000 soldiers to defend Taiwan. I disagree with trade to abandon your ally because it sends the wrong message across the world, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, the standpoint is that it's about, if you're an American, which I am, of course, and is that we want a strong America that's economically strong. And a lot of what Trump is doing is based upon building a strong economy. But at what cost? This is where the trade-off has to be, is that if you forsake freedom, if you forsake democracy, if you forsake protecting territorial integrity in Ukraine, if you forsake protecting your allies like Taiwan, that's a democracy, just for economic gain, what what happens to the rest of the world? Don't you think that that's going to mean Putin's going to do more? Even Nigeria's neighbors are going to do more. You're going to have issues. We're already seeing issues between Western Sahara and Morocco because of the stance that America is taking. You look at North Korea, what they're going to do. What is more important? If you were a president of a country, economic stability or protecting the global, protecting democracy around the world, which would be more important to you?
That depends. If America was once the world's policeman, that was a role they held for many, many years. Trump, I don't think, is interested in being the world's policeman. Everybody today is selfish, self-centered, they're worried about themselves. Look at immigration policies in Europe, look at immigration in America. America is America first. They don't want immigrants in the country anymore. Great Britain, France, Italy, they only care about themselves. They don't want people to come into the country anymore, but they forgot how they colonized the rest of the world and turned everybody into slaves and exploited these countries. Now they don't want anybody in the country. So in the West, in North America, everybody thinks of their country first. They don't care about anybody else. So the economies of these countries is what's important. I take a global view. I am more interested in freedom across the world. But then again, I don't have the political or the military power to impose my will across the world. Now, there are very bad people in the world today. Wars are started by very arrogant, ignorant, tough cowboys across the world. Whether you're Hitler, whether you're Putin, or whether you're some ragtag head of a militia in North Africa or some crazy country, they are the ones that start the wars. It makes no sense why they start those wars. These wars could have been avoided. We could have a talk and have a conversation, and we can avoid these wars. But when ignorant people find themselves in power, they stop thinking. The only thing they understand is brute force. And that's what they do. I disagree with them. If there's some kind of way we can get rid of these ignorant, arrogant folks, I would do it in a heartbeat. But there again, I'm a kid from Nigeria with no power. What can I say?
Well, just say this before we take a break, is that everything you've done with Silverbird is amazing, and you have a powerful voice, and so you've done amazing things. So let's not diminish that in any way. Listen, I know we're supposed to talk about Nigeria in the second part, but I want to build on something you said in the first segment, is that, wars and who starts wars. And Venezuela. Let's talk about Venezuela for a second. President Trump has been attacking, which I believe drugs are a vile thing and that needs to be rooted out in the world. But he's been destroying boats in the Caribbean and now in the Pacific that are carrying drugs into the United States. But now he's thinking about actually invading Venezuela and attacking Venezuela. He's actually sent some special forces into the island. What do you think about that? Do you think that is a necessary war if it could get rid of drugs around the world?
First of all, it's not going to get rid of. I'm totally against drugs. I don't drink and I don't smoke, and I've never taken any drug in my entire life. So I'm totally against drugs. I watch a lot of movies on the narcos, documentaries, and these are very bad people. And from what I've read and what I've seen, they control the governments of these countries. They put up a lot of money for people to run for public office, win elections, and things like that. So South America, Colombia, Mexico, Venezuela I believe, these are countries filled with drug barons. Now, having said that, what is the way to solve the problem? I do not believe that President Trump should be taking out boats in international waters. First of all, I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if that's legal, if you can go. And what if, like I read, a boat is stranded in the ocean, and some guy is stranded, a fisherman is stranded, and you think he's a drug dealer. You kill an innocent person, and that is the problem. If you think they're drug dealers and they're going in boats, when they get into American territory, you can take them out. 2, I don't understand why he has his forces outside the coast of Venezuela. Is he planning an invasion? And what would be the ultimate objective? If he is a man of peace and he wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't think this is how you win the Peace Prize. And I don't think putting aircraft carriers and your jet fighters and bombers off the coast of a nation without the military means to fight you, let alone defend themselves, makes any sense. So I don't know. I don't know why he's doing it. It doesn't make sense to me, but then again, Trump is Trump.
Well, I have to say that I think that part of the issue is in Venezuela, and he just, and I think that they just docked a couple of U.S. Vessels in Trinidad, which is just off the coast of Venezuela. Is that my take on it is that he wants a regime change in Venezuela, and he's using the drug war as justification. And I have to say, I 100% agree with you. The precedent where you're attacking vessels in international waters. I mean, what's going to happen when people start attacking vessels off the coast of Nigeria in international waters? I mean, where does it stop? Once again, you're setting a precedent. But I think he wants to change the administration there, and I think he's using the drug war as just an excuse to do that. But let's go on to Nigeria. First, let's talk about you becoming a member of the APC. Talk to me about that. What led to that decision?
First of all, President Tinubu has been my friend for a very, very, very long time. I've known him before he became governor of Lagos State. I watched him 8 years as governor, as a civilian, the things he's accomplished, built his party. Then I remember one time I went to see him in his house, and the current Minister of Solid Mineral, Dele Alake, was talking to me outside his house in Bodlon. He said, Bola Tinubu would run for president. That was like a long, long time ago. I said, are you sure? I didn't think about it. I never thought Governor Tinubu would run for office. This was a long, long time ago. But he finally did. He won. And he did things that made me believe a leader must be bold, must be courageous, must be fearless, and must take decisions that may seem unpopular but good for the nation. And that's what he did. When he floated the currency, he stopped a lot of people making a lot of money, speculating on currency, where the central bank had 5, 6, 7 different rates, which made no economic sense at all for any nation on planet Earth. But it made nation for the people in CBN to have 7 or 8 rates, and then you can go into the bank and buy the dollar at one rate and sell it the next day at another rate and become a very, very wealthy person. Meanwhile, the economy suffers. The second issue was deregulation, whereby we paid for petrol at the market price, and that stopped all the corruption and the fraud that went into the petroleum sector. These two policies, the decisions he took from day one, and 2 years later, the benefits to the economy and the amount of cash we have today is unbelievable. He made the right decision. Now, people will argue, a lot of people are suffering, they're in poverty because of these decisions. They are right. But there has to be short-term pain for long-term gain. These things have to happen. The government now needs to figure out a way to have programs in place to help the poor. This has to happen too. Once we do that, we are on the right track to be the largest economy in Africa. Debt service was 97%, is now less than 50%, because that's all we're doing, paying our debt. So with these policies, I believe I made the right decision to move to the APC. And to be clear, I am moving to the APC because of President Bola Tinubu. I'm not moving to the APC because of the party. There are many parties, but a party must have great leadership, courageous leadership. If this had happened in PDP, I would have stayed. It didn't happen. APC under Bola Ahmed Tinubu made this possible. I'm supporting him personally. I agree with his policies. It makes sense. And I think we're on the right track to fix the problem in the country. And if you look at Boko Haram and the fight against insurgency, the National Security Advisor and the military are doing a fantastic job in containing these criminal elements, and soon they're going to wipe them out because they are determined, they are focused, they are fighting a war to free the country, not fighting a war to make money for themselves. And this is important to me. And I'm a nationalist, I'm a patriotic Nigerian, and I will support anybody, even my worst enemy, who will fix the Nigerian economy, fix the Nigerian military, fight the bad guys, and get rid of them. That is the reason I switched parties.
Very admirable, and it's interesting you say that because I had a guest on my show last week or week before from another political party, and I said, "Hey, talk to us about what your policies are that would make Nigeria better." And he said, "Well, that caught me off guard." I'm like, "Okay, first of all, you have a lot of people attacking President Tinubu and attacking the APC for what they're doing, yet they're not proposing other policies that would make the country better." And I think that this is a perfect example where people may be having difficult times. There's no doubt about it. Life is a problem, but as you said, short-term pain, long-term gain. But I think that what I see around the world is that people attack the incumbency just because they're the incumbent. Doesn't necessarily mean they have better policies. And I think that what I'm seeing in other political parties in the country, maybe it'll change, and other people who want to run, is that what are they proposing that would be different than what the current president, doing? So listen, it's very bold what you did as far as joining the APC. I commend you for following your conscience because a lot of people don't. So, but let's talk about how does that play into the rest of politics. What would you say is the current state of the political climate in Nigeria?
I think the political climate is in shock. They're in shock because what President Tinubu has done, several presidents before him couldn't do or didn't have the courage to do, and he's done it successfully. So if you're going to campaign against President Tinubu, what would you say? Would you say his policies are wrong? How would you campaign against him? It's impossible. On these issues, which destroyed our economy over the years, you can't, now the currency is stable. How would you campaign against President Tinubu? What would you say to the people? It can't be economics, it can't be political, it can't be militarily. So a lot of people are now saying to themselves, okay, hey, listen, we failed. We couldn't do what he has done. So it makes sense to move to his party, his philosophy. So when he runs, he'll probably get 70-80% of the vote. He's going to win with a landslide, and he's going to come back. And these policies are important. So the leaders of other political parties are joining the bandwagon. They're not joining the bandwagon just for self-preservation, because it makes sense. If you had to argue against his policies, what would you say? It is an impossibility. You cannot argue against common sense policies that help the economy. So there is great turmoil in the land, great conversations from everybody. But ultimately, whatever you say, whatever you do, you lead to the same direction. You support President Bola Tinubu in any disguise. You can say, I'm supporting APC, I'm supporting the president, I'm supporting this governor. It's irrelevant what you say. You will end up supporting President Tinubu because you support his policies. And his policies are the only way needed for 8 years. After 8 years, whoever takes over 6 years from now is going to be the luckiest president in Nigeria, because the dirty work, the hard work would have been done. That is the turmoil we have in Nigeria today.
Well, and I agree with you. Listen, I don't take a position on who the president of Nigeria is. It doesn't, it's not relevant to me. But what I see is that longevity and continuity is important. I mean, one of the problems we have in democracies, and I'm a strong supporter of democracies, is that every 4 years things change. The reason countries like China are so economically powerful is because they make 50 to 100-year plans. And so I think that longevity is important. And one thing I would say to the audience out there, the global audience, not just the Nigeria audience, is that I know things are difficult. I know it's hard to, get transportation costs increase, other things because the fuel subsidies have gone away. But these are short-term pains. It'd be easy for a politician to come out there and say, I'm returning the fuel subsidies. I'm going to make your life easier. But the reality is that's short-term positive gain. And if Nigeria fails economically, the entire country, will suffer economically, and including you and your children and your grandchildren. So, it's tough right now. There's no doubt about it. But I do believe that stabilizing the currency and trying to deal with some of these issues are very important. But let's talk about the opposition here. You got Tiku, you got Peter Obi, you got others. Do you think that, I mean, your prediction for the next election, do you think that it's going to be a landslide, or do you think that there will be a very strong campaign against the president?
There's going to be a very strong campaign. The two people you talked about, Atiku and Peter Obi, are very good friends of mine. They're brilliant politicians. And if you ask them in the quiet moment, they wish they could have done, if they were in office, the things that President Tinubu is doing, those two issues, and fighting the war at a reduced cost and winning the war against the insurgents. I think they cannot argue against these issues. It's going to be an exciting race. All races are exciting. Some people are going to vote on ethnic lines. Some people are going to vote on religious lines. That's okay. I got no quarrel with any of that. But ultimately, President Tinubu will win the election, and I think he'll win with a landslide. And I think he'll be president again, and then he's going to fix the economy, and we're going to move forward, and Nigeria will be a great country. We just have to go through this pain. The election is going to be exciting. I can't wait. Now let me ask you.
I think it will be an exciting election. I think. Yeah.
A question. You predicted the war against Ukraine. Let me ask you, when do you think China will invade Taiwan?
I think within 6 months. And I don't think it'll be a necessary invasion because you can't really invade Taiwan if you look at it. I think it'll be I think it'll be a naval blockade at first. And I think there'll be strategic strikes against their anti-aircraft missiles, and through capitulation, I think that they will require the island to give in. And I agree with you. I don't think anybody in the world is going to come to their defense by any stretch of the imagination. But I hate to go back to this other question. I want to talk about extremism around the world. I mean, because, the other issue is that what you're seeing around the world is like after 9/11, there was extremism. And America did a tremendous job of trying to defeat extremism. It's not about religious ideology, because the world, major religions have lived in harmony for thousands of years. I mean, there have been pockets of problems. But extremism, extremists within the Christian community, extremists within the Muslim community, Islamist community, and even through the Judaism community, has always been an issue. And I think that what we're seeing in Nigeria is not a fight, against. It's not an anti-Christian issue. It's about extremism. And I think that a country like Nigeria must, for the economy to grow, you must confront extremism. So I just want to make that very clear. So real quick, Ben, tell me, what do you think is the most pressing issue that's going to impact the world that we all need to be watching?
I think if you look at the world today, because of extremism, a lot of nations are electing extreme, arrogant, conservative people as their leaders. And most nations in the world are looking inwards. They don't like foreigners anymore. To me, there's a disconnect. You only want your people who look like you, who talk like you, who go to the same church or mosque like you, in your country, yet you want to trade with countries that don't look or talk or act like you. This is a contradiction. but this is what is happening in the world. And I think the solution for it, believe it or not, is for poor nations to reduce their birth rate. I think the biggest problem we're having is poor people are having too many children, rich people too few children. Children of poor people are dominating the world, creating fear and insecurity in rich countries where they are producing fewer children. Now, poor people think children are a gift. I don't know. But how many kids do you need to pass on your wealth or your ideology to the next generation? 3, 4, 5, 20, 50? I think that is a fundamental issue. If poor countries keep producing unlimited number of children that they cannot feed, they cannot school, they cannot educate, and then you do not expect the rich countries and the rich man to accept your poor kids into their country and create fear and disconnect between his people and your people. It is a touchy subject. Nobody wants to talk about it, but population control is critical for the world to survive. And I think it is a conversation we ought to have. We ought to have it now, and it has to make sense. Population control is the biggest problem that the world is faced. There are two problems: population control and the rise in the sea level to destroy the world. Either way, overpopulation will kill you, and the rise in the sea level will kill you. So you choose. I think it's time you choose how you're going to die anyway.
Well, hopefully we're not dying anytime soon. Listen, once again, you're spot on, because here's the thing, just to bring this full circle, we started talking about this whole show when we started talking about the environment. Overpopulation is an issue that impacts global warming. Overpopulation is an issue that impacts governments. Overpopulation is an issue that impacts the economy. You know, overpopulation, you are correct, is an issue to this planet. And if we want to rein in and when you have overpopulation, it deals with ethnic issues. It deals with religious issues. It deals with it exacerbates all these issues. And you're right. No one wants to talk about controlling birth rights and your right to have children. But the reality is overpopulation is what's impacting every aspect of our society, from religious issues to economic issues to environmental issues to political issues. So it is an issue, and I'm glad you bring it up. It's an issue that has to be addressed. Well, Ben, sadly, we're out of time. It's always a great pleasure seeing you, and yeah, I know it's. And listen, once again, I want to applaud all the stuff that you're doing, and all the very difficult decisions you make about political, your politics in life. But you're doing the right thing, and I commend you on that. So, but thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being with Dane Waters on Around the World with Dane Waters. And next week, we will see you with another guest where we'll talk about the things that are impacting the world. Thanks for being with us today.
What we've always maintained is the never Trump movement. I'll bring it down a bit. Lagos has become one of the largest exporters of ivory in the world.
Live in a third world nation where your votes will get stolen if you can vote for it at all.